is Focus with Jack Caudill.
Good evening, I'm Jack Caudill. Welcome to this month's edition of Focus. This month we are sitting down for our entire half hour with the newly elected president of the Oglala Sioux tribe, Kevin Killer. Kevin, thank you for joining us. Great to have you up here for the show this evening. A little background before we get too far into this. Kevin served in the South Dakota State Legislature from 2009 to 2019. He grew up in Denver. His father was a member of the Oglala Sioux tribe, brought him back to the reservation over the summers, graduated from Oglala Lakota College, got his first taste of politics working for former South Dakota Senator Tom Daschle. Again, newly elected as the president of the Oglala Sioux tribe in November, inaugurated in December. Kevin, you had been involved in state politics, as we said, for quite a while. What made you decide that this was time for you to get involved in tribal politics?
I think one of the things is, just making sure that I was able to have my experience and being able to share that with the rest of the community, and understanding that, I had a unique perspective to offer with being in the legislature for 10 years, working with 105 different people, having different viewpoints from all over the state, and just really being able to share that, because I think, it's just really important that we keep moving forward in different ways. But I also had a spiritual experience over the summer, that kind of helped guide me to make that decision, and I think coupled with that, based on my experience, I just still had a lot to offer my community.
Now, you said it mentioned a spiritual experience. What was that?
That was, I prayed about it, and I was just finding different ways, and I think this, even people would ask me, like in 2017, 2018, just even when I was in the Senate, they'd ask me to run, and I'd just say, I prayed about it, and finally, I had that chance to think about it and do it this summer and all that, and just having friends, they encouraged me, I prayed about it, and that's what came to me, and I was like, okay, I'll do it, and what came to me was saying that you need to run, and it didn't say you're going to win, but but at least put my name out there, and I think that's what I was okay with that, putting my name out there, offering my experience, and the people spoke, and that's and now I'm here. So
now you got into the campaign. What was the message that you were putting out to voters through that campaign, and what is it about that you think resonated with them, that made them vote you in?
I think one of the things is just being able to share my experience, that the different things I did in the legislature that you brought up earlier, like working with President Obama's administration on different items and all that, even reaching out to different members of our legislature. They were able to kind of share their experiences. They were able to kind of endorse me in different ways, but also community members help support that message. And I think one of the biggest things that really got me to do that is the concept of revolutionizing sovereignty. And it's a slogan, but it's also like looking at how do we use and assert our sovereignty on different levels, especially at the federal level, the state level, the local level, but how do we build relationships around that concept? And because that's really important, we need to make sure that we build good relationships for our communities so they can exist. We have one of the largest populations of young people that live in this region, and they need representation. Like you think about half of our population is under the age of 30. Of that 30-year-olds, how many are under 18, and how many can't vote? So we need good government people to actually represent them, tell that story, make sure their needs are being met.
Now you talk about revolutionizing sovereignty. When you look at that, what changes are you looking to make when it comes to sovereignty with the tribe?
I think the biggest thing is just being able to figure out how do we work with different administrations, like most recently, transitioning from President Trump's administration to President-elect Biden's administration, and understanding that where do we have friendly faces. I know that Secretary of Interior nominee was Deb Haaland, who was a representative, native, she's Pueblo, and she does know about a lot of our issues, but the Department of Interior also has a lot of say over what happens in our community. So there's a lot of admin changes, a lot of rule changes that could happen that could just make life easier for a lot of the programs that work in our communities, that do services, direct services, and they can make that happen. But also at the Veterans Affairs, we have a lot of veterans. Dennis McDonough, who was a former, worked on Obama staff, but also worked with Senator Daschle. He worked in Pine Ridge on Election Day. So just to have those relationships continue 15 years later is really an amazing opportunity. But how do we take advantage of those as a tribe? It's really asserting our sovereignty and making sure that we go out and build those relationships. And that will exist at the state level, however that works. We need to look at that. But also at the local level, being able to reach out to mayor. I know there's been some items that came up around the homeless camp up here in Rapid City, and just being able to kind of build better relationships around that. And so all 3 tribes came to agreement in making sure that, we have something in place and we could work with different entities around here to have better relationships.
Now, for people who aren't familiar with how that relationship works between the tribe and the federal government and the state government, how do those coexist and work together?
Yeah, so originally we had treaty rights, and the fundamental tenets of those treaties were health, education, and welfare, if you actually read it. And health is being healthcare, education, our education systems, and definitely welfare, now social services. And understanding that those tenets exist in different facets in our community. But one of the things that we're making sure that also part of that is that the federal government had a government-to-government relationship with the tribe. So traditionally, we've always dealt with the federal government, but recently we've seen different administrations give more rights to states. So that kind of put us in this mix of where we have to actually work on a triangle, or sometimes they call it a 3-ring circus. So, because sometimes that's what it turns into. But at the same time, it's just making sure that, we build good relationships with all entities, because sometimes the state has oversight or a say in some of the issues that affect us, and we need to have a say in some of the issues that affect states, and it's ultimately that federal entity that determines that. So it's, again, sometimes it's a good way to build relationships, but like I said, it's a 3-ring circus sometimes, and it's just making sure that we always understand that, and that's where we're kind of coming from, that we have a treaty that's negotiated with the federal government, and sometimes those rights get abrogated, but sometimes we need to defend those rights. So.
Now you're in office, you started off a 2-year term. What's your number one priority as you get things rolling here?
I think the biggest thing is just really bringing back trust. I was just trying to figure out how do we build more trust into our local community from our local people, be transparent about communication, and just understanding that, that's what people want from a good government, is that they want to be able to communicate, they want people to answer the phones. So literally, I've been in meetings, I've been doing interviews, all this kind of stuff that, that the president has to do. But, at the end of that day, at 4:30, I get a whole batch of calls, and I've just been doing calls, so getting calls from the president. And sometimes when there's nobody in the office to answer the phone, I'll pick up the phone myself, and I'll say, "Hello, this is Kevin," and it's actually the president. Some people get excited about that, but it's it's just really doing that, like the day-to-day things, all that kind of stuff, and it's because we have limited staff and all that. You look at like for example in South Dakota, the governor has so much staff to help them in different departments, agencies, all that. But literally, we have 5 people helping us. We have 5 people on staff, and they serve in different functions. But we also have 1,000 employees. We have 62 departments, 62 programs that help serve different entities like solid waste, education, just things like that. So it's just really, like we have a huge area to manage. And it's just making sure that we're on top of it the best way they can, and then you put in some of the social issues that go on, that couples that. So we're just trying to find a balance, I guess, and it's just making sure that we're just kind of meet the needs of people. So bringing that trust back to government, being things like that, being transparent. I think one of the other things, I know housing's a big issue, especially for our young people I talked about, and just working with different council members on that plan. I think there's a lot of team unity amongst our council, amongst our executive board, and we need that as much as we can, because we're going to be able to kind of work in a better way and work together.
As an outsider, sometimes it can seem like tribal politics can be chaotic at times.
Yeah.
What do you do to try to stabilize that? To like you said, to give people trust that this is here. This is
yeah. I think, like, again, doing interviews like this, also making sure that we're just out there telling people our message, our needs, what's going on, where can people help. We had some non-native people from the region, I think Sturgis, that donated toys. They reached out to the president's office, and just being able to pick up the phone. I think it's something simple as that. It says a lot. And it says, okay, well, at least I can get a straight message from this or that. So that's one of the things that we shared on our Facebook page is like all the contact numbers. How do we get a hold of us? Who to get a hold of? And it just really, again, is just ensuring that there's going to be continuity and there's going to be some predictability there, because I think at the end of the day, that's what help them feel safe. So.
All right, we got to take a break. We'll continue our conversation with Oglala Sioux Tribal President Kevin Killer when we return with this month's edition of Focus. And good evening, I'm Jack Caudill. Welcome back to this month's edition of Focus. We're talking to Oglala Sioux Tribal President Kevin Killer this month. Kevin, you've done a lot of work with young people on the reservation. That's been one of the things you've talked about a lot. What do you want to achieve with the young people on the reservation?
Definitely. Thank you for that question, Jack. And I think one of the biggest things is, like seeing and meeting their needs, and, some of the work that we've done through nonprofit work that you brought up. I think you've seen kind of a multi-strategy approach, and understanding that, one of the biggest questions that I always got, running for office, because I was elected at 29 and was just relatively young. But one of the things that people would ask, how do you create more Kevin Killers? And I'm like, well, I'm one person, but also how do you build the interest of these young people? And how do you make sure that we're working towards a common goal and breaking down barriers for a lot of our young people? And I think that's one of the things is you kind of meet young people where they're at, and understanding that, we need a youth council. We could set that up for multi-generations, because again, half our population is under the age of 30. So, how do we work from the 14 to 32-year-olds? But that, you think about it, that's 3 generations, and if you're able to kind of actually break into that, you can set a good foundation for 3 generations. And just really understanding that, you can teach them principles of good governance, you can teach them principles of good business, you can teach them principles of management. So it's just really, like making sure that we work through that. And it doesn't have to be like the traditional college system. It could be different, just different, again, meet them where they're at. I think that's one of the biggest things that I learned is this, take a multi-generational approach. So we're going to definitely set up a youth council within the office of the president. And we're still planning that out, but it's definitely going to be at least happening in January. So.
Now, statewide, it's been a challenge for communities all over. How do you get the young people to stay? Is that a battle that you're facing as well?
It is. I mean, it's a rural battle, I think, like brain drain. It happens everywhere. It's just not exclusive to reservations, but it just happens because we have a bigger population. More of our talented young people leave. But I think, giving them opportunities, giving them reasons to come back, giving them reasons to engage. And I think that's kind of the partnership between like the rural reservation opportunity, because we have a plethora of members living up here in Rapid City, but how do we get them actively engaged? And do we find private funding for that? Do we find items for that? And I'm definitely committed to doing that, because I, over the last 10 years through the nonprofit work, I was able to build relationships with large foundations, regionally and nationally, and just kind of sharing a lot of our opportunities that we have around being able to teach our own perspective and share our perspective with others, and why that's so valuable to the development growth of our region. So I think it's just a really good thing. And also, being in the office of the president will give me an opportunity to build relationships with the local business owners. Why is it important to get our young people engaged in the economy in Rapid City, but also, how do we extend those opportunities, and how do we build and strengthen our regional economy, between Rapid City, Pine Ridge, just these kind of places, and, really making it a partnership. So.
Now, you talk about having jobs for the young people. What do you do to bring more businesses in, to build the businesses that you have so those jobs are there for those young people?
definitely.
And older people as well.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. No, I think again, it's mentorship. So it's like working with our mentors. Who own businesses or tribal members who had businesses, and there's a lot. There's a lot who know about small businesses. There's a lot who know about how to set that up. Where it's an LLC, whether it's a corporation, where it's this, but just being able to tap into that. So again, working through the president's office, we would like to set up a business council, per se, of tribal members who actually begin to kind of see some of these business opportunities. And we have some on our council right now that own businesses and all that. So definitely work with them. But just like, how do we kind of build that partnership between like the business community and our young people, and how do they find opportunities in that? And I think eventually it will kind of mend itself into a good way. But there's just there's opportunities in drones, there's opportunities in technology, there's opportunities in construction, because this whole region is growing. You see houses going up every day, but also I had somebody call me yesterday who was a tribal member. We grew up in Denver playing basketball. He's all excited, but now he owns a business. He's a tribal member and he owns a business up in Rapid City, and he has 4 tribal members working for him. And he was just like, any way that I can help, let me know. So just being able to engage people like that, and that know about construction, technology, whatever, we want to make sure that we tap into their talents, because there's just a lot of people who want to help right now, and we need to take advantage of that. So.
Now, COVID-19 has hit the reservation especially hard. As we're taping this just before Christmas, been over 2,200 cases, 43 deaths on the Pine Ridge Reservation. How tough of a battle has that been, and where do you guys feel like you are at in that battle?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is this, acknowledging like what the past administration has done, and the proactive steps that they took to create a COVID task force, and acknowledging all the amazing work that a COVID task force has done to this point. And and as of this, when this will air, we'll probably have more cases. But I think to date we have around 2,500 COVID cases that came through our community. I'm not sure how many actively recovered, but at least 2,500 that came through our community, and understanding that it will still be around, and proportionally, for whatever reason, it's just affecting Native communities in different ways, a lot worse, I guess. And just making sure that we're taking active steps in that area. And I think one of the biggest things is that we had our checkpoint still set up. We have our COVID task force meets almost 2 times a week, sometimes 3 times a week. But we also have the vaccine coming. So that's actually been an interesting process to see how that kind of rolls out, and to see who gets that priority, who gets that. And I know that some first responders already gotten it within the IHS system, so that it is actively going out. My own cousin who works with IHS got the vaccine. So, and it comes in 2 phases. So we just have to make sure that we continue to educate about the vaccine process, but we don't let our guard down, because I think what is a concern is just making sure that we stay vigilant, because people are going to say, oh, the vaccine's here, so I don't need to wear a mask, wash your hands, and all that. And so I appreciate the interview today, because you acknowledge that we're 6 feet apart, and that's something that you always have to be mindful of. And it's just it's always being constantly on guard, and definitely we'll try to figure out ways to figure out when there's going to be an end date, because I think that's what people are looking forward to.
When is that end date?
I
wish we knew.
I know. I wish we knew. So yeah.
All right.
So.
We got to take another break. We'll continue our conversation with Kevin Killer when we return with this month's edition of Focus. And good evening. I'm Jack Caudill. Welcome back to this month's edition of Focus. This month we are sitting down with the newly elected president of the Oglala Sioux tribe, Kevin Killer. Kevin, we talked a lot about the challenges that you guys are facing down there. What's going right on the reservation? What is it that gives you hope and makes you hopeful for the future of the Oglala Sioux tribe?
Definitely. I think one of the things that, like one of the unique things that with COVID, it's also, it's shown there's opportunities if if you know where to look. And even like being able to be on, be in person and all this kind of stuff, that's what we like doing. But one of the things that we realize is that, we can meet through Zoom, so we can be more, efficient, we can save more money, we don't have to travel as much. And I think that's one of the things, is that it helps us stay in community, and it helps us being able to communicate. And I think that's one of the things that we're really looking forward to, and seeing how we could, build on that and utilize that, because we just have a lot of young people who engage in Facebook. We have a lot of young people who are active in social media, and we're just trying to make sure that we meet people where they're at, and I think that's one of the opportunities. Another opportunity is that we recently passed the legalization of cannabis in March, and we finally got our rules and regulations set in place. The law enforcement had to do a few things to make sure that it was perfectly legal, but I know that they recently that people can carry up to an ounce, I believe, and they can, that's legal on the reservation. You can't use it while you're driving, of course. You can't, do all that kind of stuff. But at least, partake in that, and really looking at the medicinal effects of that, and seeing what there's opportunities at, and then, like the opportunity to use that and build a partnership with our state legislature, our state legislators, and understanding that, we have there's good things coming, and I think also. With the incoming administration, there's a lot of opportunities there. Like I said earlier, with Secretary Holland, well, the appointed secretary, he still has to be confirmed, but that there's an opportunity there. We have new people coming into the administration, so there's just exciting opportunities, I think, coming up for our community.
Now, you talk a lot about young people. You have all through this conversation. Do you feel good about where that younger generation is taking the tribe 10, 20, 30, 100 years down the road?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're seeing, they're seeing different things. So for example, they're just exposed to the rest of the world now through social media. You basically put a hashtag in there, a hashtag you can just put in Thailand, and you'll see everything going on in Thailand. And then a young person growing up with that. One of the unique things, and again, the opportunities and one of the downsides of COVID is that, our young people have to stay indoors. So there's a concern within our community. It's a valid concern that our students are missing a whole year of school. But what is the opportunity in that? And I think just sitting down with educators, sitting down with community members, sitting down with students, and seeing that, okay, well, how do we make up that whole year? How do we make up this time? And how do we use technology to make up that time? And that, again, that's what I said about COVID, is it presents unique opportunities that come around maybe once in a lifetime to restructure and reimagine how we think about government, how we think about school systems, how do we think about this, and how can we become more efficient? And I think that's one of the areas that we're going to really look at in January, February, March, April, May, within these first 100 days of coming out with some recommendations, ideas, all this kind of stuff. So it's a good thing, and I think of course we've got to stay vigilant, wear a mask, all that kind of stuff. But it's just there's just a lot of good things happening, I think.
Now, I would say probably the majority of people watching this know the Pine Ridge Reservation is there, but probably have never been there, may never go there.
Yep.
What should they know about the Pine Ridge Reservation that they don't? What misconceptions might they have about life there that they wouldn't see from outside?
I think one of the biggest things is this understanding that we're willing to meet people where they're at, but we know we're always gonna make sure that we get our fair share of things. We have a good dialogue with people, and that we're just here to work in partnership, and that we're looking for opportunities just like anywhere else, just like any other rural community. And we struggle the same way, like if you talk to people who live in rural areas anywhere, rural life is hard, and because you got to go an hour, to Walmart, you got to go an hour to Rapid City, whether you're growing up in, Cheyenne River or Murdo or wherever, that's something that people, realize. And I think there's a unity there in our community, but also that there's also opportunities because, we have resources, resources get spent, L&I unfortunately this year didn't happen, but I'm sure that was felt on the Rapid City economy. And just making sure that, that's the economic impact our community has. So how do we kind of grow that? How do we build trust in that? And understanding that we're here to work, we're here to partner, and there's opportunities there. And I think there is always going to be the misconceptions out there about what our day is, but also just look at our tribal Facebook. We always share good news, we always share good things, and we try to be positive. I think that's one of the things that with my administration, we're going to try to be positive. We're going to try to do good things. Of course, we're not going to be pie in the sky and all that kind of stuff. We're going to be grounded in reality, but there's opportunities and ways that we talk about how we think, how we feel, and how we believe. So.
All right, Kevin, we are just about out of time. Got about 30 seconds left to go. anything surprise you about the job so far?
I think the biggest thing is the amount of time, especially transitioning from state legislature to this. It's a lot like, it's like being a governor, it's like being a mayor, it's like being a local official, it's like being a sociologist. You know, you have to do a lot, but it's good though. So thank you.
We're out of time. Kevin Killer, thank you for coming up and joining us. Thank you for joining us as well. Hope to see you again first Sunday night next month. Good night.